Okay, guys, so we're getting ready for us to dump this into Unreal. And, one of the things that I'll do when I'm building out these things is I'll kind of do these card silhouette things where I basically try and get a block out kind of look of what I'm after, and then I fill it in with extra geo. Um, and that's useful because a couple things. A, you can scatter stuff on top of them, which is really nice, but you can kind of get a really good indication of the silhouette without having to do too much work, which is really, really nice as well. And then if you need to have, if you need to do more things such as sheet modeling or that kind of stuff along with the foliage, you can obviously, do that as well. You got to be careful with it though, because sometimes you can get too much geometry flowing, but it's definitely worth testing, and you can really just kind of scatter it out really fast, and then you can kind of trace in between them with a spline or something to kind of fill in and make the illusion that it looks like there's, hanging cards and that kind of stuff and vines in between it. The viewer typically will not know if these things are not 100% connected. I know some studios really pride themselves on that, but it doesn't honestly matter in the end. Most people will not recognize it. They just won't. Some artists might, but the customers typically won't. So, keep that in mind as well. The other thing too, and I slowed that section down a little bit so it's at 200%. I'm going to show you guys the shader that I use. They removed the foliage shader inside of Unreal. So when you go to Google it, you can obviously see the stuff that I'm setting up. But if you, I believe it's just a standard translucency shader now. It's a two-sided shader. It used to be called the foliage shader, but I think they just changed the name in it for this release or whatever. That or I totally missed it, which is entirely possible. But I ended up getting the look that I wanted doing the way that I do it, so it's pretty good. The other thing too is you see me try and do is I try to reproject the foliage back out onto a sphere. For more stylized stuff, that tends to work out really nicely. Like you can totally get away with it. But for more realistic stuff, sometimes it doesn't work out the best. The reason why you typically would reproject your normals to a sphere, you can basically capture the mesh data. You can transfer the mesh data, and I use a script called Noors Normal Thief. It's Noors Normal Thief, and it basically allows you to take two different pieces of geometry and project normals from one to the other. And so you can kind of get like this really nice soft billowy look on plants and stuff. It's really nice. It works out really well for a lot of stylized stuff. I tried out in this, and I didn't get the exact look that I wanted, so I ended up just kind of going with a standard mesh workflow, but I don't know if I captured that in the video, but I figured I'd at least tell you guys it. And, you can kind of see me doing the thing I mentioned earlier where I'm just going to kind of remove detail out of the photos, clean them up, going to run a couple Photoshop filters on them, and honestly, like, I don't really have a set, like, Photoshop thing that I do. I just kind of look at the surface and I kind of judge it, maybe some dilation, maybe some noise reduction or whatever, and just kind of go from there. The roughness and curvature and all that kind of stuff, I just eyeball it. I'm not running it through Quixel or doing anything crazy like that. Roughness, the whiter the texture, the shinier it is. The grayer, darker it is, the less shiny it is. The metal is inverted, or is the inverse. The more, if it's black, it's no metalness. If it's 1, then it's full metal. I believe I'm getting that right. It's numbers, so I could be wrong. And I spent all this time trying to get the look that I want, and then I could bake it all down into a potato in the end. So, just keep that in mind as well. But, foliage is one of those things that adds a lot to a scene, so I recommend you taking the time that you need to get the look that you want. And I looked at a couple other assets like on the Unreal Marketplace to make sure I wasn't doing anything different on the shader side. I add a wind actor into the Unreal shader. It's a foliage actor. I basically in the material browser, type in wind, and you'll find a simple wind projection. It takes two constants and the texture lookup, and it runs it looks like a sine wave across the surface, and it kind of gives you this nice effect of it blowing, and it ties into the wind entities, which is nice. But I think that's about it for this section. Again, it's going to go on for a little bit. I'm not going to narrate through the entire thing, but you guys should definitely get a pretty good indication of what's happening and, the general workflow. So hopefully you guys are learning a lot. And yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying this, and I'll talk back at you guys in just a few. So kind of moving forward a little bit, and obviously they're missing a little bit of footage there, but you guys can kind of see the final look of the foliage there, and it looked pretty good. It ended up working out in the end, and yeah, I was pretty happy with it. So kind of moving on, we're going to add some more kind of storytelling elements. I wanted to do some cans and whatnot. So part of the thing that I'm going to show here is a little bit of just the thing I showed you guys in the normal mapping section. I'm going to show you guys just the floating geometry concept. Basically, this is a really useful thing, actually. You can basically build your low res, and then you basically stack a bunch of high res detail on top of it. Or you can subdivide your low res or whatever and still stack extra detail on top of it. And these cans are kind of a good indication of how I'd go about doing that. And it works out pretty well. And it's a really fast way to kind of do your high res modeling inside of games. You don't really need to worry too much about stitching a bunch of stuff together. You can literally just float the meshes off the surfaces, and it's pretty straightforward. Now, one thing that always comes up is, well, if you do that, how do you get accurate occlusion? I fake it. You can hand paint out stuff, you can do that, but I don't do that. I take the normal map. I'll rip two different kinds of AO. I'll rip an AO that has, just the main form detail, like without the floaters. And then I'll use since they're floating, I'll use that floating geometry in conjunction with a normal map rip of the surface. I'll take a normal map and I'll literally do one of those fake AOs inside a null, and it works out really, really well. Most people can't even tell the difference. And I don't have to fight with anything. I don't have to do any weird tricks, and it's pretty fast. So just standard subdivisional modeling, kind of cleaning up stuff as I go, trying to cut corners and hitting myself in the ass when I do that. So I'm just fixing everything up as I go. And it should be, again, pretty straightforward. Everything that you need to know you're going to see here. So hopefully you guys are learning some cool stuff, and you guys kind of get to just see how straightforward and kind of how brute force it really is.